endless sweep of Russia's far northern wilderness, where the Ural Mountains lift their ancient spines against heavy skies, and where the tundra stretches beyond the limits of sight, a remarkable chapter of human endurance continues to unfold. Here, across lands battered by ferocious winds and locked in ice for most of the year, the nomadic peoples of the north, heirs to a lineage thousands of years old, still tread the hidden paths of survival. Through the golden decay of autumn and the soul-testing silence of winter, these wanderers move through a world at once hostile and astonishingly alive, crafting a fragile, enduring existence against forces that would swiftly claim the unprepared. Autumn descends, the landscape undergoes a profound transformation. The brief, riotous bloom of summer, the tundra lit in carpets of mosses, lichens, and fleeting wildflowers, shrinks back under the breath of cold. Frost bites into the mornings. A thin skim of ice sheathes the rivers and lakes. The birches and larches lining the foothills of the Urals turn a burning gold before their leaves surrender to the cold and fall, revealing skeletal branches that claw at the darkening sky. The nomads, whose lives are tuned to the faintest rhythms of nature, sense these changes long before the first killing frosts. Among the Nenets, Khanty, Mansi, Komi, and other northern peoples, preparations for winter are ritualistic, urgent, and steeped in ancestral wisdom. Families who have spent the summer in more southerly grazing lands begin migrating back toward the inner folds of the Ural valleys and tundra flats, driving their herds of reindeer across streams now fringed with brittle ice and through winds, already sharpened by the season's bite. The migration itself is a grueling endeavor. Tents, known as chums among the Nenets and similar terms among other groups, are struck down, their heavy reindeer-hide coverings bundled and tied. Sledges, essential for transporting not only materials, but also children and the elderly, are repaired and readied. Dogs bark in chaotic choruses as harnesses are fitted, and reindeer are yoked together into long, snaking caravans that wind like living arteries across the land. During this migration, every moment counts. Hours of daylight diminish quickly. Storms can descend without warning, whitewashing the world into blinding chaos. Families move with deliberate urgency, pitching temporary camps by dusk if progress is halted, but always striving to reach traditional wintering grounds, those sheltered valleys and lightly forested regions that offer the best hope of grazing and protection once the full weight of winter descends. As they travel, they observe the world with a precision foreign to modern sensibilities. A faint shift in the wind's timbre, the pattern of frost on a stone, the movement of distant crows. All are interpreted as omens, messages from a land that speaks only to those who listen closely. The reindeer themselves are partners in this reading. Sensitive to shifts in weather, they will often quicken pace or alter direction before a storm, their instincts honed over generations of survival. By late autumn, the nomads establish their winter camps. These are not permanent settlements, but carefully chosen locations adapted to each year's conditions. A low hollow shielded from prevailing winds. A forest edge where fallen branches and dry wood can be harvested for fires. A riverbank where ice fishing may still yield food before the waters vanish beneath solid ice. The chums rise again like stitched hills against the horizon, their smoke holes breathing slender plumes into the brittle air. Inside, life condenses into an intimate circle of warmth and necessity. A fire, central to existence, is kindled and tended with devotion. Over it, iron kettles stew cuts of meat, hides dry near the flames, and battered tools are mended by lamplight. Children huddle under thick furs, their laughter subdued, but still a vital thread of life amid the howling wilderness. The architecture of survival is simple but profound. Clothing is crafted from layers of reindeer hide and sinew, insulated by design rather than material excess. Boots are stitched with waterproof seams to keep out slush and snow. Gloves are lined with fur plucked from the soft bellies of young reindeer. Every item, from the smallest spoon to the largest sled, reflects generations of refinement. Each contour, each knot, each lashdown a product of relentless trial against the demands of the environment. Food is life, and every meal is a triumph against entropy. Dried fish and salted meat from the autumn harvest sustain the camps through lean weeks. Blood soups, rich in calories and iron, warm bodies from within. Where reindeer are sacrificed, no part is wasted. Skins become shelter and clothing. Bones are carved into tools, and sinews are fashioned into thread. The principle is immutable. Take only what is needed. Waste nothing. Honor the gift. As the first true snows fall, layering the world in muffled white, another stage of life commences. Hunting and trapping gain renewed urgency. Men and older boys fashion crude but effective snowshoes from bent willow branches and sinew, allowing them to traverse drifts that would otherwise swallow them whole. They pursue Arctic foxes, whose pelts are prized, and ptarmigan, whose meat supplements the diet. Where forests edge into the tundra, they may snare sable or ermines, adding precious layers of warmth to the community's stores. Yet it is the reindeer that remain at the heart of all things. These animals are not merely livestock. They are the axis around which nomadic life turns. In winter, their ability to dig through deep snow to uncover lichen, the white gold of the tundra, makes survival possible. Herders guard them vigilantly, especially against wolves emboldened by hunger and darkness. At night, fires are sometimes set at the perimeter of camps to dissuade predators, their flickering lights mirrored by the dancing auroras above. The winter months stretch on, harsh and unrelenting. The sun, when it appears, rolls low along the horizon for mere hours before vanishing again, leaving a long twilight tinged with colors so delicate and strange they seem unearthly: rose, violet, indigo, and deep green streaks across the southern sky. In these long nights, the human spirit finds expression through song, through story, and through ritual. Shamans, those deeply revered as intermediaries between the material and spirit worlds, conduct ceremonies intended to heal the sick, to ensure the herd's vitality, and to appease the spirits of the land and sky. Their drums, stretched taut with reindeer-hide, echo through the crisp air, summoning visions and invoking ancient wisdom. Within the chums, families gather close, sharing myths of the first hunters, tales of creation, and cautionary stories of those who disrespected the forces of nature and were undone. The connection to land and ancestor is not a concept, it is lived reality. Spirits inhabit every river, every stone, every ridgeline. To live successfully here is to live in constant negotiation with these unseen neighbors. A misstep, a wasteful kill, a careless crossing of sacred ground could doom an individual or even an entire family. When storms howl down from the pole, tearing at the tents and driving snow sideways, the people hunker closer still. Inside the chums, the air becomes thick with the mingling scents of smoke, tanned hides, boiled meat, and human breath. Babies are wrapped like precious treasures in layers of fur and kept close to the fire. Elders, repositories of stories and survival tricks, teach through quiet demonstration how to mend a broken strap with frozen fingers, how to gauge the safety of an ice crossing by sound alone, how to recognize the way a snowdrift forms around hidden dangers. Survival is not merely a physical act, but a communal, spiritual undertaking. Each member of the camp has a role to play, from the tiniest child to the most stooped grandmother. Skills are taught early and internalized deeply. The ability to contribute is a source of pride and identity. Hunger is a constant specter. No matter how carefully supplies are managed, lean periods are inevitable. During such times, the people draw upon their hidden caches, fish frozen into stone-like hardness and buried under markers of rock, bundles of preserved meat secreted near old migration paths. They also turn to traditional knowledge, which barks can be boiled to yield nutrition, where lichens can be harvested without exhausting vital reindeer feeding grounds. As winter deepens, bringing its longest nights and its bitterest colds, a kind of timelessness descends. Days blur into one another, distinguished more by the phases of the moon or the patterns of the stars than by the ticking of hours. The Nenets and their kin orient themselves by a grander clock. The migrations of animals, the ice thickening over rivers, the taste of air signaling a coming thaw or storm. Yet even at winter's nadir, the promise of renewal glimmers. The first, subtle lengthening of daylight is observed with reverence. Women step outside their chums to greet the pale returning sun with open palms. Children are allowed a few extra moments of play beyond the tent perimeters. The reindeer, sensing it too, grow restless, pawing at the snow and raising their heads to sniff a change in the wind. Thus the cycle turns. Soon preparations for the great spring migration will begin anew. Repairs to sledges, inventorying of supplies, mapping of the safest river crossings. And the nomads once again will shoulder their lives and move across, the face of the north, following a destiny as vast and unbroken as the land itself. As the heart of winter clenches the land in its iron grip, the world transforms into a study of extremes. Temperatures plummet to depths scarcely imaginable, -40, -50 degrees Celsius or colder. The very breath of the nomads crystallizes in the air, falling around them like fine dust. Wood, rope, and even leather become brittle. Movement outside the shelter of the chum becomes a dangerous ballet of necessity and precision. Exposure too long, and frostbite will claim fingers, noses, and toes with ruthless efficiency. Yet in this frozen world, life does not cease. It contracts and hardens into an essence, a distillation of what it means to endure. Inside the chums, existence revolves around the fire. Its light flickers across smoke-darkened hides, casting shifting shadows that make the small, enclosed world seem, at once infinite and confined. Fuel is precious. Twisted stumps and branches hauled laboriously from distant thickets feed the flames, and the daily search for burnable material is a ritual of its own, carried out even when the cold threatens to shatter exposed flesh in minutes. Meals are simple and direct. Boiled meat, thick broths, sometimes hard cakes of ground-up pine bark and blood, a testament to human ingenuity in a place where crops cannot grow and traditional agriculture is a distant dream. In rare times of abundance, a fish caught through a painstakingly hacked hole in the ice may grace the communal pot. Among the people, sharing food is not an act of charity, but of survival itself. Hoarding is unthinkable and punishable by communal contempt. Outside the camp, the land sleeps fitfully under its heavy quilt of snow. Trees, bowed and laden, creak and groan under invisible pressures. Herds of reindeer cluster close together for warmth, their breath rising in ghostly plumes. The herders, bundled beyond recognition, move among them like living spirits, checking for signs of illness, injury, or impending labor among the pregnant does. Wolves lurk at the edges of the herds, phantoms of hunger and cunning. A careless moment, a weakened reindeer, an inattentive herder, such lapses are seized upon without mercy. Encounters are swift, brutal, and often deadly. Yet there is respect for the wolves, too. They are not hated, they are understood. In the endless calculations of survival, predators are as much a part of the fabric of life as the aurora or the biting wind. Night dominates the calendar now. Weeks pass with only the faintest glimmers of twilight at midday. Under the vault of stars, the aurora borealis dances in shifting veils of green, purple, and red, a living tapestry that has inspired awe and reverence since time immemorial. To the nomads, These lights are not mere scientific curiosities, but manifestations of spirits, ancestral voices moving across the heavens. In this long darkness, storytelling assumes paramount importance. Gathered around the hearth, elders recount the sagas of the people, of the first journeys across the land bridge when ice still ruled the world, of the animal spirits that taught humans the ways of endurance, of tragic heroes and wise shamans. These oral histories are no idle entertainments. They are living repositories of survival knowledge, moral codes, and identity. A typical story might weave together practical advice: how to read the stars for direction, how to recognize signs of thin ice, with metaphysical lessons about humility, respect for nature, and the dangers of arrogance. Children listen wide-eyed, absorbing lessons that may one day save their lives when no help is near. In times of sickness or misfortune, rituals deepen. Shamans, chosen through visions, marked from childhood by their sensitivity to unseen worlds, are called upon to intercede. Their ceremonies, often conducted under open skies no matter the cold, involve chants that mimic the sounds of animals, the crackle of fire, the rush of rivers. Drums echo through the frozen night, their rhythms sending listeners into trances, where they walk the invisible paths of spirits. The people's relationship with the land is not one of dominance, but of deep negotiation. They see themselves as a strand in the web, neither greater nor lesser than the creatures they hunt, the rivers they cross, or the mountains they revere. To the Nenets and their neighbors, the Ural Mountains are not inert geology but living ancestors, witnesses to human striving across the eons. Winter festivals mark the turning points of the season. These are rare and precious gatherings when multiple nomadic groups, following ancient routes, converge briefly at certain sheltered valleys or along river junctions. Here, reindeer races are held on sleds polished with ice, young people are betrothed, alliances are renewed, disputes are settled, and goods are traded. Furs for metal tools, dried fish for salt, hand-carved trinkets for precious beads. Such gatherings are not only practical, but deeply spiritual. They reaffirm bonds not just among individuals, but among clans and between humanity and the land itself. Songs rise into the frozen air, mingling with the smoke of communal fires. Dances, often mimicking the movements of reindeer, wolves, or birds, stitch the people into the broader pattern of life and death, survival and rebirth. The communal ethos of the northern nomads is nowhere more apparent than during these meetings. A lost traveler, no matter his origin, is welcomed into the tents and fed. A child orphaned by accident or illness is adopted without question. In a world where isolation equals death, the virtues of generosity and compassion are paramount, woven into every aspect of life. As the winter solstice passes and the days begin their slow ascent toward light, the mood among the camps shifts subtly. Hope, that most fragile but vital of human qualities, flickers more brightly. Traps set along the tree line yield more catches. Reindeer birth calves that stagger on trembling legs. The air smells faintly, imperceptibly, of change. By late winter, preparations for spring migration begin. The people inspect their sledges, reinforcing joints and replacing worn bindings with new sinew lashings. Hide coverings are repaired, tents patched, harnesses tested. Hunters venture further afield, mapping safe passages through snowfields and frozen rivers that will soon, unpredictably, begin to thaw. And when the first true melt begins, it does, so with a sudden, ferocious vigor. The snow sags and softens, rivers roar to life under their ice, the tundra exhales mist. Camps become islands in a sea of slush and water. Movement becomes treacherous, requiring exquisite timing and knowledge, passed down across centuries. At last, when all is deemed ready, the migration resumes. Caravans snake once more across the reborn land, following ancient routes etched not in stone but in memory and instinct. The journey is no less perilous now. Rivers swollen with meltwater can sweep away sledges and lives. Bogs open like hungry mouths. Predators rouse from winter hunger. Yet there is also a profound joy in movement, a celebration of life's persistence against unimaginable odds. Songs rise among the caravans, songs of farewell to the winter camps, songs of welcome to the green pastures ahead, songs that honor the spirits of those who did not survive to see another season. Thus, in an endless, unbroken cycle, the nomads of Russia's far north live. Through autumn's decline, winter's brutal reign, and spring's explosive return, they embody the raw, irreducible truth of existence on the edge of the world, that life, fragile though it is, can flourish even in the hardest places if met with courage, wisdom, and humility. As the Ural Mountains slowly emerge from winter's heavy sleep, their slopes shedding the last vestiges of ice and snow, the nomadic people of the tundra awaken too. They move not with haste, but with a methodical deliberation honed over countless generations. Every decision, from when to break camp to which path to follow, is rooted in a delicate reading of the land's subtle signals. The tilt of the sun, the pattern of river breakup, the behavior of the birds returning from distant migrations. Reindeer, now freed from the hardships of the coldest months, find nourishment among the early shoots and mosses pushing through the saturated earth. They grow restless, eager for broader pastures. The herders, in turn, must anticipate and respond to their movements, guiding the herds with a mixture of patience and assertiveness. A misstep now, allowing the reindeer to scatter or stampede, could result in devastating losses. The sledges, long the lifeline of survival, glide less easily across the muddy, uneven terrain. Sometimes they must be dragged by hand over patches where the melting ground clings like quicksand. The people press on, their bodies conditioned to exhaustion, their minds trained to endurance. To them, hardship is not exceptional but elemental, a constant drumbeat against which life must be lived. As the days lengthen, the Arctic transforms with an almost violent speed. What was once a stark landscape of white and gray now erupts into greens, golds, and blues. The tundra blooms not gently but with ferocious energy, every plant racing to complete its life cycle in the brief window allowed by the sun. Wildflowers, purple saxifrages, yellow poppies, tiny white cloudberries speckle the hillsides like scattered jewels. Migratory birds, from the tiny sandpipers to the imposing swans, return by the millions. Their calls fill the air in a riot of sound that seems almost inconceivable after the deep, muffled silence of winter. To the nomads, the arrival of the birds is more than a sign of seasonal change. It is a reaffirmation that the world's ancient rhythms endure, that life persists. Fishing becomes a central activity now. Armed with nets and spears fashioned from bone and wood, men, women, and children alike take to the streams and lakes. They work tirelessly, for these are the months to build up stores that will see them through the next winter. Fish are smoked, dried, and sometimes fermented underground in traditional pits, preserving their precious proteins against the inevitable scarcity to come. Hunting, too, gains new urgency. Waterfowl are captured using intricate traps or hunted with slings and bows. The skill of tracking, already a vital art in the snow, becomes even more challenging in the wet, spongy ground of spring. Every bent blade of grass, every faint impression in the mud is a clue to the practiced eye. And always the reindeer remain at the heart of it all. They are transportation, clothing, shelter, and food. Every part of the animal is used. Hides for tents and clothing, antlers carved into tools, bones boiled into nutritious broths, sinews spun into thread and lashings. Even the hooves are rendered into glue or chewed raw for their high collagen content. Among the Nenets and other groups, the traditional clothing worn during this season is an exquisite marriage of function and artistry. Summer garments, while still designed to protect against sudden cold snaps, are lighter and more flexible. Tunics and trousers made from reindeer hide are sewn with painstaking care, each stitch tiny and even, each seam double reinforced. Boots, soft, insulated marvels, are crafted from reindeer leg skins, with the fur facing outward in winter and inward in summer for optimal thermoregulation. Decoration, while minimal, carries deep significance. Beadwork, colored threads, and carved amulets, sewn into garments, are not merely for beauty. They are expressions of identity, prayers for protection, and tributes to ancestors. A single jacket might tell the story of a family's lineage, victories, and tragedies in patterns too complex for outsiders to fully decipher. Children, even the youngest, are fully integrated into the rhythm of life. There are no long periods of idle childhood here. From an early age, boys learn to ride reindeer, to set traps, to repair sledges, while girls master the intricate arts of sewing, firekeeping, and food preparation. Play exists, but it often mirrors adult responsibilities. Mock hunts, miniature sled races, storytelling contests. Education is oral, practical, and immediate. A lesson in river crossing might involve a direct, sometimes perilous attempt, with elders nearby to guide and correct. Failure is not punished harshly, but treated as an inevitable and necessary part of learning. The environment itself is the greatest teacher, unforgiving yet full of wonders for those attuned to its language. Spiritual life, too, continues to permeate every action. Summer ceremonies honor the spirits of water, of new life, and of fertility. Offerings, carefully prepared bundles of cloth, bone, or food, are left at sacred sites. Ancient trees, strangely shaped rocks, high mountain passes. Shamans mediate. Between the people and the spirit world, their visions often sought to guide important decisions, such as where to establish the next camp. Dreams are taken seriously, recorded, and discussed within families. A dream of a white reindeer might be seen as a sign of coming prosperity. A dream of a cracked river could warn of betrayal or misfortune. This blending of the mundane and the mystical, of the physical and the metaphysical, gives life among the northern nomads a richness that belies its apparent hardships. As summer deepens, the tundra teems with life, but it also brings new dangers. Insects, particularly clouds of mosquitoes and black flies, descend in swarming clouds that can drive both animals and humans to madness. Protective clothing, smoke from fires, and special mud pastes are employed to defend against the onslaught. But irritation and infection remain constant threats. Yet these challenges are met with the same stoic resilience that defines all other aspects of northern life. Complaining achieves nothing. Only adaptation and preparation matter. Meanwhile, thoughts turn slowly but inevitably toward the next migration, the slow arc that will guide the people back toward autumn's pastures and eventually into winter's embrace once more. The calendar is not measured in days or months, but in phenomena. The first reddening of tundra shrubs, the behavior of the caribou, the patterns of bird departures. By late August, the first hints of autumn color stain the landscape. The sun, once high and tireless, begins to dip lower at midday. The nights lengthen subtly at first, then with growing speed. Temperatures drop, and the air regains its razor sharpness. The tundra, so recently a riot of growth, begins its rapid retreat toward dormancy. Now the great migrations resume in earnest. Herds of reindeer, fattened by summer's bounty, move steadily southward, sensing the oncoming snow long before it appears. The nomads follow, their caravans stretched across the horizon like ancient processions, the cries of herders and the barking of sled dogs filling the thinning air. Autumn is a season of urgency. The camps must reach wintering grounds before snow and ice render the routes impassable. Supplies must be inventoried, hides sewn into new tents, sledges reinforced for the coming rigors. Sick animals are culled for their meat and hides, ensuring the strength of the remaining herd. Along the way, the landscape changes. Forested valleys offer brief respite from the tundra's harshness, providing firewood and shelter. Rivers, now, running low, are crossed carefully, each fording a gamble against hidden currents and treacherous footing. Family groups swell and contract fluidly during the migration. Sometimes several clans travel together for safety and camaraderie. At other times, a small family might strike off alone to seek a better path. Communication among groups is maintained by runners, youths chosen for their speed and endurance, who traverse the landscape with messages and warnings. Autumn's bounty must be seized before it vanishes. Late berries are gathered in great quantities, their vitamins essential to warding off scurvy during the lean months. The last fish are caught and preserved. Mushrooms, though few and sometimes treacherous, are collected cautiously by those skilled in their identification. In the evenings, as the cold deepens and frost reclaims the ground, fires burn brighter and longer. Storytelling sessions grow more frequent, both as a means of entertainment and as a communal preparation for the long isolation of winter. New stories are born alongside the retelling of old ones, each generation adding its own struggles and triumphs to the collective memory. And so, once again, the endless cycle of life in Russia's far north turns. Against the backdrop of the ancient Ural Mountains, against the ferocious rhythms of seasons that demand absolute respect, the nomadic people of the tundra endure. They endure not because they are hardened beyond suffering, but because they are intimately, reverently attuned to a world where survival is an act of profound love for the land, for each other, and for life itself. As the caravan snakes southward, the landscape seems to transform with every passing hour. The tundra, which once stretched in endless, unbroken horizons, gives way to stunted forests of larch and birch. Here, in the taiga's outermost fringes, the nomads must adjust once more to new challenges. Thicker undergrowth, fallen logs, unpredictable rivers. Their sledges, which had glided effortlessly across open tundra or over the frozen crust of winter snow, now must be dragged, lifted, and maneuvered through thickets and swampy valleys. The reindeer, too, sense the change. Their hooves, adapted to shifting ground, move cautiously across the uneven terrain. Some herders swap sleds for lightweight packs temporarily strapped to the reindeer's backs, a method older than memory, allowing for swifter movement across the difficult landscape. For the nomadic families, this is a period of intense labor and constant vigilance. Predators, wolves, lynxes, even the rare but fearsome wolverine, become more active in the narrowing twilight of the season. A distracted moment, a camp left unguarded, and precious animals could be lost. Children are taught to scan the tree, lines without ceasing, to listen for the telltale signs. A sudden silence among the birds, the crack of an unseen branch. Still, autumn is not only a time of hardship. It is also a season of astonishing beauty. The forests ignite with color, a firestorm of crimson, amber, and gold. Mushrooms of fantastic shapes and sizes erupt at the bases of trees. Mist drifts along river valleys at dawn, turning the world into a watercolor of shifting grays and silvers. The people, though pressed for time, pause when they can to absorb the wonder around them, knowing such moments are fleeting. Nightfall brings the first hard frosts. The ground, soaked from months of melting snow and summer rain, begins to stiffen. Pools freeze with a thin, crackling skin of ice. Water fetched at dusk might be solid by dawn. It is a warning. The deeper cold is coming, and it will not wait. For those who linger, campfires grow larger and more numerous. Heavy reindeer skins are brought out, stitched into cloaks and sleeping robes. The tents, called chums among the nenets and similar to teepees, are reinforced with extra layers of hide and insulation. Hearth fires are fed constantly now, even during the day, their smoke rising in straight white columns into the frigid air. Food preparation also intensifies. This is the season for making pemmican-like mixtures, finely chopped meat blended with fat and sometimes berries packed into hide bags or carved wooden containers. Such foods are prized for their portability and their ability to sustain strength during the grueling winter marches. Within the camps, there is an air of solemnity, but also excitement. Winter, the ultimate test, the season that defines life in the Arctic, is almost upon them. Tales are exchanged in the evenings about winters past, storms survived, near starvations averted by sudden luck, reindeer saved from ice crossings by desperate courage. Elders, revered for their knowledge, sit at the center of these gatherings. Their faces, deeply lined by wind and frost and time, shine in the firelight as they recount ancient stories of the first reindeer tamer who learned the secret language of the animals, of the great ice bear who taught the people how to build, shelter from snow, of the mountains themselves, said to be the frozen bones of a primordial giant who gave his life to create a homeland for the nomads. These stories, more than mere entertainment, serve as repositories of wisdom. Embedded within them are survival lessons, moral codes, and spiritual truths that cannot be forgotten if the people are to endure another cycle of the endless seasons. When the first true snowstorm hits, it comes not as a surprise, but as an expected guest. The sky darkens with low, racing clouds. Winds howl through the valleys, bending the young trees almost double. Snow falls in thick, blinding sheets, smothering the ground, obscuring trails, silencing the world in a heavy, muffled embrace. The nomads react with practiced efficiency. Tents are secured with extra lashings. Reindeer are herded closer to camp, protected behind makeshift snow breaks. Children are kept inside, wrapped in furs so thick that only their bright eyes peer out. Within the chums, fires roar, and the smell of roasting meat, rich and primal, fills the air. Once the initial storm passes, a transformed world emerges. The forests are ghostly in their white shrouds. Rivers, once alive with fish and noise, lie frozen and silent. The reindeer, their winter coats thick and lustrous, paw through the drifts with their hooves to find hidden lichen. Now, the nomadic. Rhythm shifts once more into its deepest and oldest mode. Survival against the profound silence and lethal beauty of the Arctic winter. Travel becomes more organized, slower, but more direct. Snowshoes made from wood and hide are strapped to feet. Sledges glide once again over the hardened surface. The cold is no longer a mere inconvenience, but a constant adversary. Skin can freeze and blister within minutes if exposed. Tools left outside can shatter like glass. Yet paradoxically, there is a certain ease that comes with winter's full arrival. The unpredictability of autumn is over. The land, though harsh, has settled into its purest form. The people, too, settle. Movements are deliberate. Tasks are performed with economical precision. Waste is not tolerated of time, energy, or resources. Within the tents, life contracts into intimate circles. Storytelling, singing, mending clothing, carving tools, teaching skills, these activities sustain not just the body, but the spirit during the long, dark months. The tents become microcosms of human resilience, warmth radiating from hearths, laughter rising against the howl of the outside wind. Outside, the aurora borealis dances across the sky in silent, majestic waves. Green, purple, and blue curtains ripple and shimmer in the icy darkness, a spectacle that no one ever tires of watching. To the nomads, these lights are not mere atmospheric phenomena. They are living spirits. Ancestors come to visit, messengers from the worlds beyond. Dreams take on new significance during the winter. In the endless night, the boundary between waking life and the dream world thins. Shamans are particularly active now, performing rites to seek guidance, to heal the sick, to bless the herds. Incantations are whispered into the crackling fire. Offerings of fat and blood are made to unseen spirits. Each month of winter brings its own trials and transformations. Early winter is a time of vigilance, of setting the routines that will sustain survival. Midwinter, with its deepest cold and darkest days, demands psychological as well as physical endurance. And late winter, when the first subtle signs of returning light appear, stirs a restless longing for movement, for rebirth. Despite the hardships, winter holds a kind of peace not found in any other season. It is a time when the noise of the outside world falls away, when families reconnect, when the soul turns inward. It is a time of reflection, of honoring the past and preparing for the future. And so the great cycle continues, unbroken and unyielding. Spring will return, the rivers will break free, the tundra will bloom, and the nomads will move once more across their timeless landscapes. But for now, they rest, they endure, they live, as they always have, in the raw, magnificent heart of the far north. As February descends upon the Ural Mountains and the tundra fringes, the cold deepens to its most merciless extreme. Temperatures regularly plunge below -40 degrees Celsius, and the very air itself seems to crystallize into a fine mist of frozen breath and drifting ice particles. Every inhalation burns the lungs, every exhalation instantly freezes to eyelashes, and the fine fur ruffs sewn into hoods. The tundra people meet this deadly beauty with time-honored wisdom. Every gesture is precise and calculated. Children are carefully bundled in multi-layered garments of reindeer-hide, stitched with sinew, to prevent heat loss. Their mittens, sometimes large and cumbersome, are vital shields against frostbite. Men and women alike layer their bodies with underclothes crafted from thin, breathable skin and outer garments heavier than a winter storm. In these months, movement becomes a matter of life and death. No one travels without clear purpose. Before any journey, routes are meticulously plotted according to landmarks remembered from countless previous winters. A particular twist of a river, a lone standing stone, the fork of a crooked larch tree. Whiteouts and snowstorms can erase the world in minutes, and a wrong step can lead to permanent disappearance beneath the endless snowfields. Reindeer, so central to survival, require particular vigilance during this period. Though they are hardy and adapted to the cold, even they must be guarded against the treacherous phenomena of ice storms, which can seal lichen beneath impenetrable crusts. When this occurs, the herders must guide the animals tirelessly across vast distances in search of new grazing grounds, often venturing into uncharted valleys or ancient migration routes passed down through generations. Meanwhile, inside the chums, life contracts even further into a dense, vital web of relationships. Family bonds tighten in the close quarters, and even small frictions must be carefully managed to prevent dangerous divisions. Elders often act as mediators, using proverbs and traditional stories to diffuse tensions and remind the community of their shared fate. During these long months, craftsmanship flourishes. With travel limited, the people turn to the careful repair and creation of tools, garments, sledges, and other necessities. Women labor over intricate beadwork, embroidery, and stitching, while men carve sled runners, fashion harnesses, and maintain hunting weapons. Every item crafted is not just functional, but also carries symbolic meaning, linking the maker to ancestors and spirit forces believed to dwell within the objects themselves. Food stores dwindle steadily, but careful rationing ensures survival. The precious dried meats and fats prepared in the autumn are supplemented by occasional hunting for hare, ptarmigan, and fox. Traps are set in strategic locations, and hunting parties venture cautiously into the deeper woods where larger game, like elk or even bear, might still be found, sleeping fitfully in their dens. But the dangers of hunting are immense. A wounded animal, if cornered, can easily kill a man. More than one hunter has been lost to the silent, ice-encrusted forests. becoming yet another spirit among the countless ancestors whose presence is keenly felt during this season. Spiritual life intensifies during the deepest winter. Shamans, their faces painted with ash and their drums adorned with reindeer sinew, conduct ceremonies to placate the spirits of the land, sky, and underworld. Illness, considered not merely a physical ailment but a disruption of spiritual balance, is treated with chants, smoke, and ritual offerings. Dreams are carefully interpreted, as they are believed to carry warnings or blessings from the spirit realms. Among the Nomads and related peoples, the myth of the reindeer star gains particular resonance during these months. It is said that when the nights are longest, a single star, bright and unwavering, guides lost souls back to the herd of the ancestors. Children, tucked beneath heavy furs, are told to watch for this star whenever they feel afraid, for it promises that no one is truly alone in the vast white silence. As March approaches, the first subtle signs of winter's retreat emerge. Days grow imperceptibly longer. The sun, a pale and distant disk for months, begins to ride slightly higher in the sky. Its rays, though still weak, cast longer shadows across the snowfields. Animal behavior shifts too. Birds call hesitantly in the woods, and the reindeer grow more restless, sensing the imminent change. The great thaw, however, remains a distant dream. The ice still holds dominion over rivers and lakes. Snowdrifts tower over tents and sledges like frozen waves. Yet among the nomads, preparations for the spring migration begin in earnest. Harnesses are inspected and repaired. Sledges are reinforced with new bindings. Tent coverings, battered by months of ice and wind, are stitched and patched. Families plan their routes toward the northern grazing lands where the tundra, soon to awaken, will offer fresh pastures for the herds. Children are trained anew in essential skills, reading tracks, building emergency shelters, tending to newborn reindeer calves. Boys and girls alike are taught that the survival of the group depends on everyone's contribution, no matter their age. Then, almost imperceptibly, the world shifts. A great melting begins, not swiftly but with a slow, inevitable force. Snow grows granular, heavy with trapped moisture. Icicles weep during the brief midday sun. Streams of meltwater thread their way across the frozen ground, carving pathways through the drifts. With the thaw comes danger. Rivers, though still frozen, in places can break suddenly underfoot. Avalanches rumble down mountain slopes. Heavy sodden snow can collapse tent structures or bog down sledges beyond recovery. Yet for all its perils, spring is a season of renewal and fierce joy. Calves are born in quick succession, their legs trembling but strong as they stumble after their mothers. The air fills with the raucous cries of migrating birds returning from southern climes. The first tender shoots of tundra grass push through the wet earth, an astonishing green against the endless white and gray. For the nomadic, people's spring means movement. The camps, dormant for months, explode into activity. Sledges are loaded, harnesses fitted, tents struck. The migration to the summer pastures begins. An epic journey that will span hundreds of kilometers, crossing rivers, mountains, and wide-open tundra. The caravan, once again, snakes its way across the awakening land. Children ride atop sledges, their laughter ringing out in the cold air. Elders are given places of honor among the procession, their wisdom guiding the path as surely as any star. Along the way, camps are set up and broken down with breathtaking speed and efficiency. Within an hour, a barren stretch of tundra can transform into a bustling village of tents, fires, and animals, and disappear just as quickly at dawn. The people move according to ancient rhythms, following the subtle cues of the land. The tilt of moss on a rock, the course of a reindeer herd, the pattern of the winds. Modern maps are of little use here. It is memory, instinct, and ancestral knowledge that chart the true course. As the Ural Mountains recede into the southern distance, and the open tundra stretches ahead, a sense of profound freedom fills the travelers. The hardships of winter have been endured and overcome once more. Life, fragile yet astonishingly resilient, surges forward. The tundra in spring is a place of miracles. Tiny flowers burst from the thawing ground. Insects awaken in clouds, feeding. The hungry birds. Rivers, freed from their icy shackles, run wild and full, carving new paths through the land. Reindeer shed their thick winter coats, revealing sleeker summer fur beneath. The nomads, too, transform. Their clothing grows lighter, their movements quicker and more playful. Songs are sung openly now, drifting across the tundra on the soft winds. Drums are beaten not in solemn ceremony, but in celebration, honoring the eternal dance of death and rebirth that governs all life in the far north. Through it all, the bond between people, animals, and land remains unbreakable. Each relies on the other in a seamless web of existence, a system honed over thousands of years to withstand the most brutal environment on Earth. And as the sun climbs higher, flooding the tundra with light, the nomads press onward, ever northward, ever following the timeless call of the seasons. Their spirits as enduring as the mountains they leave behind, as boundless as the sky under which they journey. As summer draws near, the tundra blooms in an explosion of fleeting life. Within mere weeks, the barren snowfields transform into a landscape of vibrant green, dotted with multicolored wildflowers. The rivers swell with meltwater, their currents swift and unpredictable. Birds nest frantically, their short Arctic summer. Window demanding swift reproduction before the inevitable return of winter. For the nomadic people of the north, this season brings both abundance and relentless labor. The herds of reindeer, freed from the constraints of deep snow, range widely across the vast open spaces. Herders must remain vigilant, constantly tracking and guiding the animals to ensure they do not scatter or fall prey to predators now fully active after the long winter slumber.
Como yo de cosas, ¿no?